Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Off Camber, episode 6, or is it 7? Sorry. Let's quickly double check. I'm flapping here early in the piece, but hopefully everyone's had a good weekend. This is Monday afternoon before the Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka. So our prop here, the Suzuka wheel, as you can see, in all its glory. Quick backstory behind this. I was in Japan and we went to Suzuka to watch the Super Formulas, and that was actually the season Liam Lawson was racing. So I had to get a little timepiece, and this is fucking me off. So hopefully that stays there. But yeah, so some huge news regarding that anyway. Lawson out, TSUNODA in. We are going to be talking pretty much mostly about that in this episode, as it's the spacer in between the Grand Prix weekends. So huge news, obviously, for Lawson and TSUNODA. I'm probably breaking it down here into 3 parts. All right, we've got driver, team, fan, right? So we'll start off with team. I think it's the most probably misunderstood and less talked about aspect of this swap, because obviously they're doing it for a reason. And we know that they're just trying to do what's best for them. Although from the outside it looks like a big kerfuffle. Have they bowled a wide? We'll find out in the next few races. But it's going to be very interesting to see. So Red Bull, this is going to be their Max Verstappen's 3rd teammate in 4 races going back to Abu Dhabi last year. And Perez was out. Lawson was in because of the potential that they thought. So he was, assessed as, Lawson's got the most potential. He's got the mental fortitude to drive that Red Bull car, because we know it's tricky to handle. So they've gone, fuck it, we'll get Lawson. We're not going to get the experienced TSUNODA for no reason, which is what they're saying now, is we want TSUNODA's experience, which is interesting, to say the least. So Lawson was picked for that reason, and I think I agreed with that at the time. Lawson was a really strong driver, and he drove well both appearances he had after Danny Rick's injury in Zandvoort and his second half appearance last season. He drove well and, managed expectations. He didn't disappoint, and that's all you can ask for a driver like that. So given his attitude and his charisma towards racing, I feel like that's probably what sort of compelled Red Bull to be like, you know what? Yeah, let's give him a go. So that was sort of the decision there. And TSUNODA, more being there as a part of Honda's group, was sort of overlooked and has been overlooked for years, even though he's got the pace and the experience. So Lawson goes into the seat. He cans it 2 races in a row. He absolutely cans it. You got a feel for the bloke, because he has had 3 race opportunities, 3 race situations where he has just done nothing, and Verstappen has done something. I wouldn't say he's pulled it out the bag, but if Lawson is a decent driver, what Max is doing with this car is pretty awesome and incredible. Or is it a technical shortcoming of the team? So Verstappen's obviously been around the team this is his 9th year, 2016. He came into the team. So they've been building a car around him for a lot of time now. And it was obviously something that also suited Ricciardo back in the day when he was driving for Red Bull. But yeah, ever since then, 2018, really, it's been about Verstappen, and, let's see how far we can push this with him. And obviously, as it's well known, he's documented that he likes a sharp front end. And the characteristics that we're seeing of the Red Bull in these first couple of races are showing that, yeah, Max can control it, but it's prone to huge snaps of oversteer and huge understeer at corner entry. So, that leads to Lawson making a lot of errors and then losing confidence and then being slow or crashing out like he did in Australia. So there's that side of things, right? Lawson shits the bed and Red Bull go, okay, he's really shit the bed. I mean, if you look at Gasly, Albon, obviously Ricciardo, they even going back further. I mean, drivers on debut don't do this in a top team. That is simply what it is. I mean, from a Red Bull perspective, you're looking at Lawson, right? Drivers on debut don't fucking do this. I mean, that like the crash out, then the sprint race in China, nowhere. The Grand Prix in China, nowhere. No pace. Nothing whatsoever. So teams going, okay, let's get TSUNODA in. Maybe Honda grease the wheels of this deal by giving some money to get him in, right? At home Grand Prix in a top team. It probably means a lot to them, and it's going to mean a lot to the fans, which is a great thing, of course. But will he be able to manufacture a result? So this is what is going to be so interesting to see, and there's going to be so much pressure on Yuki. Hopefully he handles it, but look, I wouldn't blame him if he can't, because he's going to be under a fucking microscope this weekend. So yeah, the team puts TSUNODA in, hoping it's not the car, hoping it's the driver, and then I guess go from there. Which makes me beg the question, why didn't we fucking go Ricciardo then? Why didn't we go Ricciardo when it was ready? I mean, okay, last season, maybe not halfway through, put Ricciardo in. I mean, I think in the Drive to Survive, they said Ricciardo was sort of feeling like it was a done deal. Which now makes me go, okay, you wanted some experience to help you out, but Ricciardo has been there, And the thing is, all these drivers, right, seem to perform in the V-Carb. All of them. They always perform in the V-Carb. Then as soon as they get promoted, they shit the bed. So that just makes me go, why, if you needed experience, you wanted to make a charge for the constructors, why would you not go Ricciardo? Like, he has got the experience in a car that he's driven in the past. Obviously, it's not the same. It's a long time ago, but still, he knows those characteristics and he knows how to control it. He knows how to control the pressure. He knows how to be under a microscope. He always is under a microscope anyway. So, I mean, why wouldn't they go Ricciardo? I mean, that's the question I ask, because not just as an Aussie, just as a guy who's thinking, right, how can we challenge for this constructors? We need help with Verstappen. We need help. We need experience. Go the safe option. Develop Lawson, develop TSUNODA. I mean, they're done with TSUNODA, but develop those guys in the V-Carb. Get the experience in the top team where they can handle it. Otherwise, why are we dropping Lawson after 2 fucking races? Like, it's 2 races. So that's sort of what I've, come up with around the team's perspective of things, right? So now we're going to see, right, if TSUNODA performs, okay, it's the driver. Red Bull goes off the back for them, right? If he doesn't perform, Red Bull is looking blasphemy. They are looking shite because they've just swapped the driver after 2 races, and Max has been saying the same thing, that it's not the driver, it's the car, which has been developed around him for years, right? So TSUNODA comes into Japan, doesn't perform. What happens? They look like shit. They look like shit because they've just dropped a bloke after 2 races. You just can't be doing that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's really all this is dependent on what happens with Tsunoda this weekend, which is why he'll be under the microscope. So next, we got the driver perspective. I mean, Lawson, obviously he's going to be gutted, but he's got to try and keep that like humble look. Like, yeah, I got to go develop whatnot, but he'd be gutted. He'd be gutted with himself. He'd be gutted with the performance because I genuinely reckon he was confident enough to perform and he's good enough. So for him to go out like that in 2 races, probably not going to get back in, is so unfortunate and he's going to be gutted. And I feel so terrible for him because to be dropped in 2 races, just two races, one that was, Australia wasn't conditions to be debuting, right? It just wasn't. And if you're going to develop him in there, if this car is so hard to drive, you need to leave the bloke in there so he can freaking learn how to drive the car instead of just, yeah, okay, we'll put you back in V-Carb where you just, meet expectations or go slightly above expectations, and then we're back to where we were. Lawson, he's a good driver. He could be back in for the Red Bull seat. And then he goes back in the Red Bull, shits the bed because the Red Bull doesn't drive well. So it's like rock in a hard place, mate. But we will see. Obviously, that's all that's it's amounting to. So Lawson, terrible. Feel terrible for him because I hope he's got the pace to show them that he's a good driver. And I also hope Yuki succeeds. Obviously, from Tsunoda's perspective, he will be wrapped. I mean, obviously, after 2 races, you don't want to feel like, you're being like gifted a seat like that. But I feel like for Yuki, now's his chance. I mean, he's been driving for V-Carb for so long. He's been overlooked for so many years. To get in the seat, you just got to take it, mate. Just take it and just perform well. Show them that you belong. And he's got the talent. So I think he will do well. And we'll have the predictions come out before at the end of the week, probably on the Friday. So I'm going to save those predictions for later in the week for that episode. But yeah, Tsunoda, just take it. That's what I'd be saying to myself. Yep, okay, I'm overlooked, but I'm in now. Let's actually show them that I belong, right? Then finally, you've got the fan. The fan's perspective sort of is a bit of a weird one. You've got people who want to feel like happy for Tsunoda, right? They're happy for Tsunoda, but then this guy who's, this young guy who's, driven so well to get up the ranks and get into this Red Bull seat is now just booted after 2 races. How are you supposed to feel about that? I mean, that is probably why all the anger is directed towards Red Bull, yeah? So Red Bull will be copping it, and especially if Tsunoda doesn't perform, they are going to cop it. And as a fan, it's shit to see Lawson get demoted like that. But we're also happy for Yuki. So we all know F1 is brutal as fuck. So we will see what happens. And I think overall we just got to be happy for him. We got to support him. And hopefully Lawson can, learn what he needs to at V-Carb to get a hold of a car that he had 2 races to bloody drive. So I think you could probably tell where I sit on that fence, and it's not fucking on it. So that's sort of the look at the Red Bull situation from afar. I think obviously the V-Carb is easier to drive, so these drivers are just going to perform well. And then we're making these opinions up about them when they haven't even sat in the Red Bull for more than 5 bloody races. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but all I can say is hopefully they all go well and hopefully they all belong in a top seat because they're all world-class drivers. So that's sort of the main thing there. Now, let's move on from that. Enough rambling shit about that. We are talking a lot about this V10 engines. We spoke about it last week, have come up in the news again. Alonso has said sort of no. I think he sort of said that it's not really economical, and yeah, we'd all love it. Obviously, loving the V10 noises and the thrill and the feeling of it, because actually feeling it is one of the things that happens with those. And I agree. I mean, there's not really much else that can be said because, I mean, where are V10s represented on the street, right? Where are V10s represented in these car brands that are looking to the future of hybrid technology? Obviously, I don't think electric's the answer, but maybe V8s. We don't know. But it needs to be something semi-relevant where the manufacturers get their money's worth out of developing and putting technology. But I do think sustainable fuels is an awesome thing. And why shouldn't we run on V10s? As a fan, why don't we get to see V10s on an F1 car if they're, run with zero emissions? Or why are we not making the calendar more, eco-friendly with logistics, right? Flying back and forth to fly in, fly out races. So there's a lot of things that can be done, but, certain things obviously take the spotlight. So that's how it goes. As long as we get a good product at the end of the day, I don't give a shit. All right. Now, so that's sort of the main arching points and the news and stuff like that we've got. Now I'm going to react to some takes. So I went in the F1 group on the weekend and asked for some hot takes for the rest of the year after seeing the first 2 rounds of the championship. And I did get some interesting responses. So I want to see I want to see what people are thinking. I like to see what people are thinking because it's fun to react and go, oh shit. Like someone's gone and thought that and gone, yeah, let me put it out. Let me, send it out to the world knowing that I'm thinking that. And I'm like, holy shit. But let's have a look anyway, shall we? So I posed the question, and if you see this, yes, that was me on the group posing the question, what are the hottest takes after 2 rounds, right? The best one I saw was Max. This is Max's last season at Red Bull. He will leave after 4 championships like Seb. And that is a good one. And I'll cop that. I rate it. I think this is definitely a possibility, especially with what's going on with the team. He may be not being heard with his, he's letting them know, obviously, the car's got issues, right? And Max is satisfied with what he's done in the sport. He's got 4 championships. He's got race wins. He's got poles. And he's obviously got other ventures in sim racing and stuff like that. So I think he's one of those drivers like Alonso that can really do anything. And he's got so much passion for the craft that I could see him doing, endurance racing, IndyCar, touring cars, like anything. He would literally drive anything, and that's what's so good about him. So he is a gun, and I would not be surprised if he was to leave at the end of the year or leave F1 at some point in the next few years, because as someone who's done everything, he's got the passion to do all that, sort of like an Alonso, right? We've seen Alonso do IndyCar and a couple other things. I mean, even Verstappen has done other stuff like rally and drifting, so who knows? Maybe you could, climb up the ranks in another category, right? Someone's gone Lance Stroll to win the championship. That's a drop. Do not rate that. That is a huge wide. That is a run wide. Boulder wide, no ball 6. That is shocking. McLaren to run away with it, battle for second, will be the other 3. I feel like that's not hot at all. I mean, it's a fine take. It's good, but it's not really hot. So standard, I think it's right, but then again, it's not really saying much to me because it's like, oh yeah, McLaren's breaking away with it. So good take, but not hot. Leclerc's best chance to win a WDC has been and gone. Wow, that's juicy. That's juicy. Now these obviously arrived with Hamilton. Sorry, Hamilton's arrived at Ferrari, not he hasn't arrived. Hamilton's arrived at Ferrari. I think Leclerc's was still going to outperform him in a Ferrari, but depends what happens. I mean, with this next run of generation of cars, anything can happen. So, but I'd say in this era, I don't think with these regs, Leclerc can get close. I think that's a good point. Rate it, but probably next regulations, there's going to be an opportunity again for Ferrari. They've done well with these regs, but they've always seemed to be able to get one lap pace, but never just keep it consistent. So I agree that it is a bit of a shame because they've had the potential. So it's super unfortunate, but what can you do? Let's get a couple more. Critical season for Lando. Yeah. Lando, this is his chance. He should capitalize. This is going to make him. This is going to be sort of going to. Was that even fucking English? This is sort of going to be Lando's year where it's like, okay, if he doesn't win or win one in the next few years, right? It's going to be the difference between him being a great and just an average run-of-the-mill winner, right? So it's like you've got those like Bottas, Checo, Danny Rick, who they're all good drivers, right? They're winners, and that's fucking hard to do. But there's a difference between them and the greats like Alonso, Lewis, Seb, champions, multiple champions who did it when they needed to get it done, right? So this is sort of that year for Lando where he can, get it done. And if he doesn't, well, fuck, someone else is going to be like that. So Red Bull's car's cooked. And so Red Bull's car's cooked, yeah. We can speak about that all day, but we've spoken a lot on that. Racing Bull's car is as good as the main team. Yeah, honestly, that's valid. In terms of pace, outright pace, I'd say no. But with ease to drive it, you can probably see Lawson performing better in it. And I think there's a guarantee that Lawson's probably going to, get close to the points this weekend. So that is a good point. Rate that. And then last one, stewards will have more to say about the outcome than the drivers. I don't know. I feel like the competition's pretty good and the drivers are being pretty fair. So I don't think that's going to be true, but you never know. We know in the past there has been some controversies. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. We will bring the Japan predictions towards the end of the week, just before the weekend starts. So appreciate you guys listening in today. Just myself. So, keen to get these predictions out and maybe we can fucking get one right. That'd be nice. All right. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. This week, end of week. I'm cocking it up. We'll see you Friday.